Hi, I'm Sophie, and I haven't seen a lot of movies.
Hi, I'm Paul, and I'm here to help with that. And we are
SP Film Viewers.
we're here for second running of Anime.
Anime in May.
Yeah, if you hadn't have guessed already.
I'm excited. Well, I'm excited right now. Maybe you'll bring me back down to earth, I don't know. But I normally enjoy anime.
Well, this one that we're going to be covering, thanks to the patrons, where I put up a poll for 2 cyberpunk, more serious anime films rather than the cutesy.
It's not what I'm here for. So that's not fair. You've just thrown the patrons under the bus. Making him pick out of 2 things that you know I'm not really going to appreciate, and then I slag the patrons off and not yourself, but actually it's yourself that made him pick that. So it's your fault still. Like, underlying.
Well, don't, jump the gun before you don't even know what it's about.
But
I
know what I like. Why are you not giving me what I like?
Because it encompasses all sorts of anime.
Am I going to get some cutesy anime in this?
Oh, yeah,
better do. I'm not playing.
Yeah, no, we will. Yeah, don't worry.
Okay, because I will go off and sulk.
Yeah. That time will come. But for now, we've got... Now, I think it's Akira or Akira.
This is the only problem with anime, isn't it? We just fudge all the names.
Well, it's not something that's easily translated to English. Yeah, it's... But I've always said Akira, but it's probably... I could be completely wrong with that pronunciation, but...
Well, you're doing better than me, Sweets.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Either way, people know what.
No, I don't.
But this is a very prominent anime film. A lot of people do like this. It's from 1988.
It's an old one.
Old.
I know Ghibli is, but I just don't feel like that ages.
But they've done films prior to this film,
I
and then
ones.
even a couple of years before, like Totoro and stuff was it was the same year, I think, as this. Or in the same.
Yeah, exactly. But it does. I don't know. I feel like Totoro doesn't seem like an old piece of art if you look at it that way.
And so, as I say, it's like cyberpunk setting, really. So there's a lot more serious undertones to it.
Is there anything cute in it?
No, I can't really say. It's not really that kind of.
Not really selling it.
But visually though, it's pretty spectacular.
Well, I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah. Anyway, so the synopsis reads, I'm going off of Letterboxd's description because the other ones feel like I think a bit like convoluted description. And anyway, so it reads: a secret military project endangers Neo Tokyo when it turns a biker gang member into a rampaging psychic psychopath that only 2 teenagers and a group of psychics can stop.
So it's like the Avengers, somewhat. Like you've got a supernatural human.
Super villain type thing, and it's like got to save the world, kind of.
Right. Okay.
Doesn't that sound appealing now?
I don't know yet. I'm not like hooked. Like, oh my gosh, yes, I really want to see this. I don't know. It just looks very like from the picture that you've got there, just very clinically
very
white and.
Well, that's just one of the photos. That's one of the iconic
and
shots.
Red.
I'm excited to revisit it again. Anyways.
At least one of us is. I think I was just going in thinking, oh, anime, la la la, fluffy cute, and you've not given me that, so I'm a bit disappointed.
Well, you remember Grave of the Fireflies, and that was...
Oh, don't.
Ghibli, so...
It was that not... I just don't think I could revisit that one, just because it's just so intense, and
okay.
I feel like I just don't want you saying, like, if you're comparing the 2, if I'm going to be getting emotional and stuff, I just don't need it.
I think you'll get emotional in the same sense.
Okay. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll see. Alright, so we'll be back very shortly with our thoughts on Akira, or Akira, whatever the pronunciation is.
Are you tired of fanboy comics podcasts? Looking for a show that really appreciates the comics storytelling medium and how it works? A show that looks at comics from any genre and anywhere in the world, comparing the storytelling techniques of different creators in different comics cultures, with manga, newspaper strips, European comics, and more, discussed alongside mainstream US comics. A show that includes talks with well-known creators like James Robinson and Dan Jurgens, and with less famous creators that you really should know. And hey, we'll even critique your comic. If you're looking for that show, then you're looking for Deconstructing Comics, and it's right here at deconstructingcomics.com. Also available in iTunes and on Stitcher. This is Tim saying check out our show on Wednesdays. That's Deconstructing Comics.
And we are back. An experienced Akira.
Your pronunciation's getting better.
Okay.
Is that because you've watched the film now, so you know how to say it?
Yeah, I think so. They were a bit of a refresher, I suppose. So what did you think? I know you're probably going to be like, there's a lot going on in the film, and it's like quite heavy and...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. You took the words out of my mouth. I'm lost with characters' names. I'm lost with who's who. There's a boy and a girl that look very similar to me. And I know he fancies her, but character-wise, she's not far removed off a boy. There's nothing really
tomboy
esque.
Yeah, I get it.
And I'm like, is that a boy? Is that a girl? I only can really understand when they're speaking that obviously that's a girl tone compared to the boy.
Yeah.
And then initially I was really invested and I was intrigued, but halfway through I was like, I just don't know who anyone is anymore. I don't know what these grey things are. I just the supernatural grey girl and boy, and I'm just like, okay. And then where did they come from?
Well, let's start from the beginning in this case with the very first shot we see, and it's 1988.
Yeah, and I was going to be a bit miffed off. I straight away was like, don't, Paul, you said this wasn't like the graves of a firefly and there was an atomic bomb.
It's not World War II, it's World War III.
I kind of like that, but then it was set in 2000.
No one would want that really, but...
No, but I think the fact that we've passed 2019 and we haven't had a World War III.
Yeah.
I know don't get me wrong, there's been a lot of other little mini wars.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not condoning that, you know, that hasn't happened. But we haven't had a mass World War III.
No. We don't want one.
And I think it's quite ironic, this, because, this is what it looked like in 2019. And back then in 1988, that probably sounds like ages away and really futuristic.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Because, to be fair, what is it, 40-odd years?
It's more like 30.
So, obviously 30 years seems like, that's a long shot of what the world could be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it reminded me of that green slime thing that we watched. That was a similar vibe where people were eating people or something.
Yes, the Soylent Green, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's still a shadow of its former self in a sense of I know it's just like, they developed a new weapon, obviously mass destruction almost, but it's still like a nod to the past of World War II. Again, it's still like a dramatic event and almost like things keep going, there's obviously turmoil going on, then we end up in this sort of dystopian future, and that's a sign of things to come. Obviously, slightly exaggerated, of course, but it's not. Show it's war. It's still another anti-war film because again, people always like the political wars and martial law kind of thing going on in the streets. People just doing what they want and really just fighting for themselves, and no repercussions as such. Really, in society's just gone down the Swanee.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's just initially I'm okay with the film. I can kind of get to grips with it. It's like, we've got a biker gang, everyone's rioting. It kind of reminds me of a little bit of a comic kind of vibe. So initially when I looked at it, it reminded me of the darkness of Batman or something like that. And then you've got these hooligans with the Joker lot, and
they're called the Clown Gang.
Yeah, so kind of
in a way, yeah. So this is based off a manga.
Okay,
which it's a bit like the Game of Thrones writer George R.R. Martin, who the film was made before the manga was even finished, so they're kind of making up stuff for the end to this.
Maybe now you're saying that kind of feels like it is right. Because I get to a point where it's just so many different things happening and I'm a bit like, okay, what's what? And then I just think I just got so overwhelmed that I just switched off. I think it's one of those.
I would say definitely for sure that, I'm not saying the storyline isn't important, but in terms of a visual spectacle of what's occurring, it's something else. Like, obviously, we've had a lot since then, of course, but I think a lot of films, not just anime or animation, but other like action films and stuff, I've definitely feel like I've taken inspiration from what this film's had to offer. And I think that's what I really like take away from it more so than the story, which might sound like strange, but I think for me as an appreciation for that, for animation anyway, and to look at the detail of what's put into it, especially as this being like a 4K disc, and so he's like, what do you make of it? And you're like, yeah, that's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, like, and to think you can still tell it's like an old tell you said, which it's fair, but you can tell like, oh, it wasn't like filmed yesterday, type or put together yesterday. Which,
I think it was more the hues of it that made it look older because of the tones and the colours that they used. Yeah, and you've got the pops of bright colours with the red and the bikes and such.
It's like, and to think like how even back then to draw on, obviously this is like all the electric bikes, like way in the future. I think it was,
which was quite funny.
But like even that sort of like glow that they had, like when they're going on the tunnels and stuff, and like the glow that the bikes trails leaving. It's like, how did they like?
It's all hand drawn, isn't it?
Yeah, but to have implemented that, like, it's still like it's quite mind blowing as well. But obviously, like the color pops even with the 4K on that, and
it is beautiful. Like watching it is, but then it's a different kind of beautiful because, like, if you're comparing it to My Neighbor's Totoro, there's
or like Your Name, or it's different level of thing, but there's still a level of appreciation for like how much. For like just backgrounds alone, really, and like to have animated something so complex, and to be because you can do like different shots with frames like in betweens and stuff, and you don't have to put that much effort into it. But like saying like getting knocked off a bike and it's like slow mo, and it's like keeping that sort of realism of like the proportions of the face or whatever is still there on.
Gained a lot from this, didn't you?
No, I did. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's it'd been a while since I'd seen it. To be fair, but again, I think it's just seen it on a larger screen and I've come from my own home with that level of detail and everything. I think it's
a lot of blood, though.
Oh yeah, it's very gory.
Is there like a rating on it or something like?
I think it would. It probably would class as a 15 now, but probably I bet, if I remember, it would have been 18 rated back in the day, but they might have reappraised.
Because it's very gory, like the way that the blood spews out as well. It's not like it's half-assed. It's like
no, it's like gushing, like like on certain things. And it's very visceral,
graphic. And I think it's got a target audience. I think if you're going into anime and you're just thinking of the stereotypical type of Studio Ghibli and all its fluffiness, then this is really not what you kind of come for, like me. I think for you, because you prefer a little bit of action and a bit more
sci-fi elements to it and just like cyberpunk aspects of it, like, this is like an otherworldly, even though it is semi-grounded in what we know as a reality such, but
I think it's more tailored to kind of a boyish vibe.
With the motorbikes and everything. I'd definitely say it would be, but as I say, like, this is what I kind of like when coming to these films, like a female perspective, really, of it.
I can't really say I like absolutely loved any of the characters, like gelling with them or thinking, there's an amazing character. Obviously, we have a douche of a character, which is the one that becomes the
super villain. Tetsuo.
You do feel for him because he's like always having to be rescued or saved, and in the end he's like, I don't need you.
That's normal, like the typical supervillain origin story, isn't it? It's all being pushed around and it's like, I can't take this anymore kind of thing. Yeah. And then he's been succumbed to this power that he never really asked for, and then he's kind of like, oh, I've got all these headaches, and it's like, yeah, and then it's like lashing out, and then he just realises he can't control his powers as such, and then sort of getting to grips as the film goes on, but still being a bit of a brat about it in a way.
Yeah, because he feels he's got a power trip, basically. Yeah. Let's be honest. He's thinking, oh, I'm the most powerful person in the room, which he hasn't felt in a while. So he wants to enjoy that power and kind of embrace it in a sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like you do feel for him, but you don't at the same time, because he does become like a really, really crappy character, and you feel sorry because he's got a little girlfriend who's quite cute. At least she looks like a girl.
Yeah. Again, it's that short head.
But then there is a scene where, and this shocked me. Like, I know, don't get me wrong, I know Japanese do love to, like, really sexualize a woman. Like, they do. Like, why are you laughing? They do.
Yeah, no, anime boobs and everything, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I've never really seen it. Like, the closest thing we've got is, like, in Demon Slayer, where there's that one girl that's a bit booby, but she's showing a cleavage.
But there's plenty of other examples of that.
Oh, my God. Well, the fact that they ripped this girl's top off and there were like these huge bazookas. First of all, I have two problems with this. When her top was on, her boobs weren't that big. But when the top came off, they seemed to grow sizes.
I don't think they were that big. As, like,
they were huge,
to the extent...
For the fact that she's a teenager.
But they like to...
But they weren't that big when her top was on. Like, be coherent. They grew. Like, they really grew in size. And the nipple area and everything was very big. And I was just like, oh, right. And I don't know. It grossed me out, right?
It's meant to be in that situation anyway, because it's not a pleasant, this is really... It's
wrong.
It is, yeah, and that's purposely what it's like. It's all, like, sleazy and everything, so it's meant to make you feel uncomfortable and that.
It did, but what I mean is I just don't think you should sexualise a character like that. I just don't think it's right for me to see an anime's boobs. I just don't think it's right. Like, Jessica Rabbit can be sexualised with her clothes on, but it just feels wrong because it's like these are innocent cartoons and characters. I just don't feel it's right.
No, I get you.
To see them nude. Like, I don't know why. Call me prudish, call me whatever, but it just feels a bit innocently weird and a bit wrong and a bit sick and twisted, I think.
Yeah, I'm not saying, like, yeah, it's a good idea for it. Obviously, that's a very small part in what is occurring in the film that I wouldn't have remembered. Oh, yeah, I remember that's going to appear. But, yeah, and going back to that part when it's like, oh, yeah, these guys are, like, circling around kind of thing. They're like, all right, okay, yeah, I forgot that this is going to be leading to this. But I know it's not really go too much further because she's going to get rescued by...
But that's fine, which I don't mind, but it's the fact that she's still there with the top off, and I don't know, she's a teenager, bearing in mind, she's just kind of been beaten up by a gang of guys being vulnerable, but also she's a cartoon character. Like, I don't know, it just feels like in that realm of cartoon world, that shouldn't happen.
I can tell you there's a lot worse out there.
Well, I feel like this could be really sexualised, and it could be... Please don't even tell me it turns into pornography or whatever like that, because I feel like the thought of like an anime character being in like underwear and lingerie and stuff, I think that would be a niche in Japan where it is a bit like, because you know what they're like, not meaning this in a bad way. Japanese people, bless them, definitely the men, they are quite chauvinistic still. I think that they've got a little bit of a way to go, definitely the older generation. And I think they do sexualise women like with their...
Yeah, they don't. I know they don't. I got the first one, so they don't really do themselves any favors with, obviously, like, with the bikinis model on the anime characters or whatever and all that kind of stuff. But it's just a culture that it still is prominent. But yeah, for in the context of that, it's just to get that reaction of that. It's oh my god, like that shocking type of thing. And
I think it's just shocking seeing a cartoon's boobs. That's just the shocking part. It's not the fact that of what... Because, like, that could happen in a normal scenario. Like, if that was a real teen girl, yes, that could happen. I mean, actually being in reality, I feel like...
That would... You'd feel more... Well, not justified, but like, oh, okay.
I still wouldn't like it, but I would be like, yep, okay, I kind of see that what tone I'm going in for a film. Whereas I'm still in my head thinking, oh, well, this is still going to be somewhat lighthearted because it is an anime, it's cartoon, it's not going to take me to that level. Does that make sense?
No, don't give me...
And it did, and I was a bit like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. And the fact that they were just so huge was an issue. Anyways.
Let's move on, because, once again, you surprised me again with something I wouldn't even have thought you would have got on your soapbox about, but there we are. See, this is what you like, a different perspective. So this is...
I just don't think cartoons should be naked. Imagine, can I just give you one more perspective?
Okay.
Imagine Jessica Rabbit takes her clothes off. Like, see her actual bazookas. How would you feel about that? Like, I know she's got them. She's got a cleavage. We know they're there. But do we need to see them naked?
No, but that's what people, like, do on, like, the 4chan or these, they'll just draw it, won't they, on...
Who?
People on the internet will make... So if you're acting like, how is this even possible?
But why would they?
Because people are twisted. I don't know.
It's wrong. Like, there's humans out there. Just go see them.
People can't. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Let's move on. Yeah. So, what is slightly jarring, though, I guess, is... I don't even really know what to class them as, because they almost seem like, well, they're numbered, aren't they? Like number 25, these. So
all I can think of is like 11.
They look like aliens almost, because they've got like zombie, like pale skin, like wrinkles and all that kind of stuff, but they're not.
Is it so much Stranger Things? Like, because like Elle is she an alien?
No, she's human. She's just been tampered with, like experimented on.
Well, that's what
with psychic powers, like these kids have got. Which, that's the thing.
Why are the different colours?
To make it just seem like, again, sort of like trigger a reaction, like, oh my god, that looks so bizarre, kind of thing. Like, and the fact that they are, you'd expect, because they look old, they sound old, but the fact that they're literally just kids. And it's like, oh, that's a bit off-putting in a way.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I thought when I first saw the little boy that he was a zombie.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, he just looked gone and grey and like he was dying.
Yeah.
And his movements were a bit weird. So it was like, oh, he's a zombie.
He was like a scared child, isn't he? Essentially, because he's like, the army coming up with the guns and everything, and he like screams, and then he like shatters glass, and everyone's like, running from the streets because...
That's how I feel normally when everyone annoys me and I want to scream and shatter glass.
Yeah. And so obviously the further playing on the fact that the kids is when Tetsuo's in the hospital and he's like having these visions. He has that one earlier.
But why are they tormenting him? Like, that's another bit that I don't understand. Like, I feel like it's somewhat partially their fault because like they're harassing him,
egging him on. Yeah,
and it's like, why are you being like that? Like instead you meant to be somewhat a wise character and be experienced. Why are you not taking him under his wing, coaching him the right way, instead of being a prat and giving him bad visions and him not understanding what the hell's going on? It's just a thought. Yeah, again, I was just like, I'm confused why. And then they're like, oh no, he can't do this. And they're acting like, and I'm like, well, it's your own bloody faults, to be honest. Sorry. I'll get off my soapbox.
But it's further on to say like how like kids obviously like they're in the form of these like teddy bear and rabbit and stuff, and again they become more monstrous as
they do.
They're like a nightmare fuel.
They're tormenting him.
But then as soon as like they spot blood, he cuts his foot or something, it's like blood, like a child would like.
What's the one in the wheelchair? What's he like? He's aged, isn't he? He's a lot older than the other two. Initially, when I saw him be like, oh, well, we need to collect the boy and take him in for testing and stuff, I was like, oh, is that his older self or something, like some form of futuristic, like he's aged and now he's this man in this wheelchair, because they look a little bit similar. So I thought it was going down that line, but then it wasn't, and I'm like, well, you don't really get to know much about him.
No, in particular, I don't quite remember his name off the top of my head, but...
I've got what's it called up here, but to be fair, some of the pictures are not there, so it's not very helpful.
Kyoko is like the one who looked number 25, who's like the girl, and Takashi
is the little boy.
Yeah, Masaru is the one in the chair. Yeah,
Like, now looking at him, he looks a bit like a child still, but like a little bit of a godfather, mafia figure. Yeah. And just like
an overseer of them.
Feels like he should have a cat on his lap and turn around kind of character. I don't know, because it went from testing on them to obviously this boy hurting one of the biker gang's friends, and then he's now being tested and needs to be put away because
like a conspiracy thing of like the government's like, oh, you know, like Men in Black type thing, like, oh, we've got to take them away, like nothing to see here type of thing. And again, I guess you could say like in Stranger Things, like they swoop in and like cover up the fact that there was escapee that shouldn't be involved in the outside world, and it's all to source out this Akira.
I'll be honest, Paul, I don't even know what. At the end, I lost the plot with that because it were like, well, it's not really a thing. It's dead already, so why are we sourcing something that's dead and it's only been preserved and frozen? So I was just a bit like...
It being, I think it's more of a he, isn't it? You kind of see a vision of him once he was...
When he was big.
Alive, yeah. When, so all that remains is like spinal cord and all this kind of...
Why did they just burn it? Why did they save it? Like, that's another thing. Like, you knew we caused all this issue or trauma for everybody.
I think
you'd get rid, wouldn't you? The scientists are stupid.
I know, yeah. They're just like poking where they shouldn't be, and just like it's what's too far to push the boundaries and stuff, and it's like, oh, we can do it, but should you? Again, I think it's more of a thing of almost like the thing of nuclear power again, like, oh, just because you have it doesn't mean you have to use it. Like, having
the button,
the button to press, and we'll just keep it in storage and out of the way for just in case of emergency type of thing. And I think it's proven more problematic.
Wasn't Akira somehow in his head? Like, somehow...
Visions, he
was.
Because I think it's whether the fact that these alien-looking kids are, like, remnants of Akira, so they've sort of, like, been affected, and they're, like, the aftermath of that, and it's like, that's why they look so old and decrepit.
Right.
Maybe it's like, like I said, like, radiation poisoning, if you think of, like, the Hiroshima bomb.
Okay.
Kind of thing, the after effects of that, and obviously then it's like, you obviously get, like, cancerous...
cells and
such.
And
stuff like that, and that's... I could be completely wrong, but...
It's one way of interpreting it.
And that's why it's Akira's put in cold storage, just, like, away from the world.
Towards the end, I think I just lost the plot a little bit, so I feel like I can't really describe it, because you've got quite a lot of people in this, if I'm honest. You've got the biker gang, you've got the clown bad biker gang, you've got the government people, you've got the people who then want to figure out what the government are doing, then you've got the military, which is preventing them...
faction, getting in the way, and then there's other... And
I'm just like, and some of them, I'll be honest, they look the same. And I think it's hard sometimes, because I think obviously because we're more British, we're English speaking, so I think sometimes when you've got different names, if it was like English, I might be able to keep up a bit better, but because you're losing the track of whose name is what, and it's not a common name that you can remember, I think it gets a little bit more confusing for me to think, oh, that design is this person. So I'm going more by the drawings than I am the names being heard.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Would it have made it, I don't know, it's obviously in hindsight now, if we'd have put the choice of it being in dubbed, would that have made things easier? I don't know.
It might have, but I think it would have lost part of it as well. But I think maybe the first watch would have been good in dub, and then the second one I could have rewatched it then in Japanese.
Japanese language,
But I think for me, it was quite quick paced as well, like an anime, not meaning in a bad way. First of all, sometimes with the normal anime, you don't have to worry about what's going on.
Easy breezy.
It's easy breezy. You kind of get the reading isn't very intense, whereas this was. There was a lot of dialogue, a lot of people. I don't know if I got to appreciate the full aspect of what you got to see of the drawings. Like, yes, I did say it was visually pleasing. I could appreciate it, but from the way that you were seeing it, probably because you've seen it previously, you were benefiting better from it. Sure. Whereas I think for me, I was too busy trying to read.
No, okay.
Understand the storyline.
That's fair. Yeah.
and appreciate the artwork that had gone into it at the same time. And I think it was just a bit of a... I think my brain got a bit overstimulated.
No, I get it. Yeah, no, there's a lot to take in, and I kind of figured from knowing that going into it as well, but I feel like maybe I should have gone with the dub version, thinking about it, really, for a first watch. That's my fault.
It's not really, because normally we don't really like it, do we?
But I've heard that it's not because like some of Studio Ghibli's dubbing is perfectly acceptable, and it's not like that distracting, really. This one, I feel like as a solid, because it's a very popular anime, and very influential, as I say, for the time and to this day. So I think the manga itself is like a big tome of a book, really, and
blimey,
yeah, and so like there's so much come from it. I think like in terms of the styles and the substance,
for other manga and animes.
Yeah, and even just say like to an extent there's like superhero stuff. Obviously, like comics and stuff were like way before then anyway. But like for anything of that nature, I feel like it's kind of like.
Well, yeah, it is basically like a comic kind of thing, isn't it? Really, let's be honest. Yeah. That's kind of the vibe it is.
One of the things I was like going back to like how crazy it is at the end as well, with the visuals especially. Like, and I said before about how the hell did they do that, like that glowing effect on the bikes and stuff, and then when Tetsuo gets his arm blasted off by the laser from space, and prior to that from Kaneda, who shoots his arm and everything, like, he is actually mortal. He can be damaged, because you're thinking, this guy's unstoppable and everything like that. And then later along, when he's at the stadium, and he's kind of like fusing with the chair, and like, the cables are like intertwined with him, like, is it like machine and human are combined together with that. That's impressive as a visual from that point, but when he starts transforming into that sort of like amalgamation of like muscle tissue and then more like mechanical wiring and all that kind of stuff, and he does like sort of like stretches his arm out and that extent, and it's like to like how to put a concept of that on paper, like I wouldn't even know where to start to have. Do you know what I mean?
I love that you're so passionate about it, and I get it, and I can imagine that actually the work that's gone into this is massively impressive, and the way you're talking about it is so infectious. It really is.
Yeah.
And I think the way that you're visualizing, well, how did they even think about back then? Like, the metal will become his like limbs in his arms and all like his muscles and ligaments, and
then from that he kind of just keeps growing and growing into this big. Like he can't, like I can't control it now. It's taken over. He keeps and all that kind of stuff.
But how? That's the bit I don't understand. How? Like, how did he grow? Did like Akira somehow like from the jars get to him, or what made him be that big? I think this is the bits where I'm not able to glue certain bits up and understand. Like,
I think it's just that his power was just so consuming of him. And I don't think
dominating him.
Yeah. I don't think Akira had anything to do with it, because he seemed like he was the good soul at the end of it. He was just that he didn't seem like he was a bad guy, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like he just a sort of victim of it all, and he was.
So does he die?
Who? Tetsuo. When it's like at the very end, when it's like I am Tetsuo, like feel like it's a rebirth. There's like a hope at the end of it, like sunbeams and everything coming from the sky and everything's like clearing up, kind of.
But then is he not going to heaven?
I guess you could say that, yeah. That's why I'm saying, like, rebirth of, like, you know, like he's going to refreshing himself, like he cleansed, really, and, like, it's about the sins that he's essentially committed, that he's life, and then he could potentially be the one that would be in the cryogenic tubes or whatever and stuff, and then, like, again, another aspect of, like, let's remember what happened here, but get past that.
I think that's kind of like what Japan have done with Hiroshima. To be fair, they've got the peace memorial and they've got the paper cranes and everything to remember what happened, but in quite a beautiful scenic surrounding that kind of makes you feel peaceful at the same time as solemn. And
yeah,
I think this is kind of what the film somewhat is trying to go for. Is it like Graves of a Firefly? No, and thank God it isn't, because I would be weeping and crying. Am I as passionate about it as you are? I don't think so. But maybe that's not to say I will never watch it again, because I feel like when we had Sam on and we watched The Big Lebowski, I think the way that you're talking about this is like how Sam talked about The Big Lebowski. And I feel like your passion for it is making me think, well, clearly I've missed something. It's gone over my head.
But you did get some level of appreciation from it. Like, you got the basics-ish, I say, like, the structure of a story of somewhat like a government conspiracy thing, and it's like, oh, we got to save our friend type of thing.
But I think, for me, action is never one of my... Even in, like, any genre, action's not my favourite. So I think that's one of the limitations with this. I think I was going in thinking I was having a lovely anime cutesy vibe, and this is definitely not what I was expecting for my first anime. However, it doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy it, but I think I need to rewatch it. That's me saying I'm not gonna not give it another chance.
Yeah,
like it's not like I never ever ever go back to it. But I think it's one of those that it is 2 hours. It is quite a lot in that 2 hours, and there's a lot of characters and a lot of people.
And I'm sure there's a hell of a lot more in the manga as well to go in depth with, I'm sure. Which, obviously, I don't know, like, we've got enough stuff to get along with as is, but, like, how many pages? Is it like a lifetime of reading that to get more context from it? Or, that kind of, like, it does intrigue me, like, thinking about it now, like, would it be something of interest? But I don't know, to be fair, because I'm thinking, like...
When do you ever get a chance to read, Paul?
That's what I'm saying.
Let's be honest.
What I'm saying.
You don't.
No.
You just stand on your bookshelf and then...
Look pretty, yeah.
Yeah, that's literally it.
Yeah.
You don't have the space. Anything else you want to add before we go to scores?
I think it's just... There's the level of... I've never talked about the sort of sound.
There were some weird sounds going on in this.
Like, sort of like... Not so I say distressing, but like...
I think the word to his dog.
Odd, like, stings, essentially, like, dramatic.
Very high-pitched noises, which George was not appreciating. And this weird gremlin noise at one point as well.
Yeah, I can't really describe it. It's not like there's a definitive, like, you would have a typical, like, score soundtrack, like the Avengers theme or anything like that going on. It was kind of... It felt almost like, I say, obviously purposeful for what it was going for in terms of, like, obviously every soundtrack is purposely written with the score in mind or music to...
Yeah.
Yes, otherwise it doesn't make sense to have
some of it didn't make sense to me, to be fair, but I think it's just, there were weird noises that I can't even... A, I don't think I've ever heard them before. B, I wouldn't even know where to start with recreating them in my mouth.
No, I see, I'm trying to think of, like, how can I describe them? And I can't really, but that's to the film's credit in a way. It's like it's almost like futuristic sound in a way, but not.
From 2019.
They're way past that now, yeah.
To be fair, though, they had something, right? Something weird did happen in 2019. It just wasn't what they thought.
Yeah, different.
So they had the date right, just complete different thing.
And also, when was the because obviously they mentioned about the Tokyo Olympics. What year was?
So that got postponed. So that was that in 2022, was it? Was it 2020? Let me just check. 2020? How did they do that? We were still in lockdown, weren't we, at that point? Or were they quite clear? So we've got the Olympics in Paris this year, 2024. How many years does it take for the Olympics to come?
Isn't it? I think it's 4 years.
Oh, well, that would make sense that it was 2020 then.
Right, okay. So it was...
But I think it was postponed. It was meant to be 2019.
Okay, so they weren't far off in a way.
No.
Yeah. But I'm sure they had one... I'm thinking of World Cup, I think. There was in Japan as well. But I think that was when I was much younger.
The fact that you're speaking about football's a bit weird.
No, I just remember, like, advertisements for it. But anyway, got scores and it's you. Go first.
Okay, I'm just not going to look at you.
Right.
So basically, in a nutshell, everything I've said, I'm not going to repeat myself because we know my feelings. And I think I definitely need to rewatch it when I've got a spare 2 hours when I can be asked putting it back on. Obviously, if I was going to...
When I put it on, you mean?
Yeah. If I was going to...
You wouldn't just go to the shelf and go... You know what?
I wouldn't. I'd go to Totoro. I would go to Ponyo. This wouldn't be one really that I'd be like, oh yeah, let's whap that on. It wouldn't. And I think that's the hardest thing when it's...
The subject matter is quite dark.
Yeah, and I think if you're going in your head thinking anime is what I really love of the version of anime, obviously there's different genres. Anime is partly a genre, but then there's whole different genres you can go down by doing anime.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, just from a first watch, this could change if I wanted to rewatch it.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very overwhelming, very hard-hitting, quite intense at times and a bit confusing. And for that reason, on personally how I feel, I'm giving it a 6.
Okay. Okay. All right.
And I feel really bad because I know you really loved it, but
okay.
it was just a bit too much, Paul.
Okay.
Oh, don't you make me feel bad. Go on, you're gonna give it a 10, aren't you?
I can't not. I just like thinking about.
What about the big boobs? Oh well, that's his highest score, 11.
First of all, I wouldn't say they were that big. And
for a teenage girl, they were huge.
And to say, like, for what I've sort of been gushing over, like how the animation side of things alone is just mind blowing, and the fact that I didn't take many notes because I'm just enthralled with the visuals of it and everything, just like taking it all in, and it certainly helps with obviously seeing it in like the quality. And that sounds stupid, but that does have a big impact on like.
No, it does.
You wanted to see something, you should really try to see it the best possible quality you can.
Yeah. It's like when we watched Point Break and we were a bit like...
Exactly. Yeah, that kind of thing's kind of sours it a little bit. Or with other things we've streamed and it's like, this quality looks like dog shit.
You actually at one point turned it off because it looked rubbish.
I can't do with the grain on this thing that should... Yeah. I would definitely say it's male orientated for 100%. Sure. And I don't know, I can't like put else into words really. Like, I guess it kind of just like blew me away. I guess like rewatching the film. So I think
me feel bad.
No, I'd say I feel like it could have been a different scenario had it been we watched the dubbed version. Maybe not. I don't know. Obviously, the context of what was in the film was still there, but it would just be that they would be speaking English, and that might not have been so. Not necessarily confusing.
I might have been able to appreciate the artwork more than reading the actual,
my goof there, I guess. But.
Also, to be fair, I have had a minor injury, and I am a bit achy, and I have had, been very tired. Yeah. So this one might have not been a great one just for the fact of how I'm personally feeling. So don't worry, it could go up, but it could be just something I don't really appreciate and you love, and that's fine too. But maybe I'd just seen enough blood for 1 week, which was coming out of my arm.
You didn't lose an arm, did you? From a laser cannon from space. So.
We nearly could have lost an arm, but thankfully we didn't. The hedge trimmer didn't chop it off completely, so we're fine.
Yeah, it's all good. All good.
Yeah, to keep you on your toes, don't I? So, next time,
go for something a bit lighter.
Promise?
I promise. Yep.
Is it Ghibli? Ghibli?
You have to wait and see. But I promise you won't be anything dark or twisted.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for letting us watch it. I'm sorry I broke your heart. Hopefully, at some point we can revisit it later on in the year.
Yeah, another time.
Yeah. I think so. And as well, then it might help when we do, like, at the end of the year. We do.
Reassess.
Yeah.
No, let's say I still wanted to cover this anyway. And your thoughts, as to say, like, this is what the show is primarily about, really. I wasn't really expecting it to be like, wow, this is the best thing I've ever seen, kind of thing.
Yeah,
but,
otherwise I would wonder if you actually realised who you'd married.
I guess. Yeah, that's that. Well, thank you very much for listening, everyone. And if you would like to check out some of our other episodes, you can do so by going to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and wherever else you get your podcasts from. And as always, be sure to leave us a 5-star review over on those platforms as well. It'd be very much appreciated.
Definitely. So if you haven't already and you want to follow us and have more SP film viewers in your life, then you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and X. So if you want to follow us, you can do so under the handle SP_film viewers and hit those like, follow, subscribe buttons.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound cool when I say that?
Mm-hmm. Totally. And we'd also like to thank the patrons, of course.
Would we?
For their input, should we say?
Yes, their support and love.
Yep. And they'll, of course, say I promised them another chance to vote on a film this month. So, obviously give a shout out now to those lovely people who are our patrons, and they are Alex, who is at Desperately Seeking Username on Instagram, Shani, who is at SDOG on Instagram, Jonesy, who is at Weight Loss Jonesy on Instagram, and Emma, who is at M_Hayton on Instagram.
We've then got Gren, who is under the handle cgren_draw on Instagram. We've then got our lovely film family community. So we've got Mark from 100 Things We Learned from Film, Ben from Push Pull Health / Film Vloggers, and then we've got Nico from The Good, The Bad and The Weird podcast. And then, lastly but not least, we've got my mum.
Yep, so thank you to those people in the Patreon family at the moment. And if you want the chance to have your name read out for your socials or whatnot, and have the opportunity to pick what we watch once a month, or in this case 2, all you need to do is go to patreon.com/SP Film Viewers and give as little as £1 or $1.50 a month for those privileges.
Exactly.
Right, so thank you very much for listening once again, and we will speak to you next time.
Speak to you next time.
Sayonara.
Sayonara.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.